We're going to move on to the next question now, and that's in relation to street clutter. The question states, bus stop shelters, directional signage, rubbish bins, telephone kiosks, etc. all occupy space on the highways in Westminster, reducing the space for movement. How should space be allocated within the highway? And take any points on that?
Well, clutter is my favourite subject, and despite the council talking about getting rid of street clutter for the last 10 years or more and announcing it's all going to be on, there's still loads of street clutter out there. But now we're finding two things. The council's on a neat streets policy, and they're getting rid of clutter that is essential clutter, bollards to protect vaults or BT covers, and they're taking them away with the wrong consequences. But it is important to get rid of street clutter, but I'm always amazed. I think you call them wayfinder maps and posts in the West End. Well, I've never seen anyone use one. I heard of one person who used one who got lost, so he didn't try it again. And they just seem to have been put in to block the passage of pedestrians. And if people did use them, it would cause even more instruction. I know Westminster, I don't think, had to pay for them. But apart from that, I can't see what purpose they served if you're getting rid of street clutter and trying to improve pedestrian flow in the West End.
Okay, thank you. Gentleman at the back.
Yeah, I think the least justifiable form of street clutter is table and chairs for restaurants. I mean, that is for a very clear commercial benefit, and there is a direct cost to everyone who uses those pavements. Necessary signage and things like that. We can't seem to get a sign to a post office put in, but we get proliferations of tables and chairs for restaurants. That just clearly makes no sense. Simon Burke at Knightsbridge Association.
Thank you. Thanks.
John Canty from Savile Bird and Axton Consultants. I probably actually disagree with this gentleman in relation to the route maps. From our experience, we're trying to encourage people to walk to places when, for example, quite often with tube stations being close by, it's quite easy for tourists and people to just hop on a tube when actually they could walk a few minutes down the road. So I think it's good to have these stations in, and I think people do use them.
Okay, thank you.
Pascal Bates, Victorian Interchange Group. According to TfL's figures, in peak times, some of the busiest pavements in Westminster are taking up to 25,000 or more people in a 3-hour peak, which for the busiest hour is approaching 10 to 12,000 an hour, which means that going past any given point, you've got 10 people a second, perhaps over a 4 to 5 metre width. That sort of volume can only be managed if clutter is kept to a minimum. And the number one type of clutter that hasn't yet been mentioned is people begging for charities and handing out free newspapers, because they deliberately position themselves in order to be as obstructive as possible so that people have to walk past them close by and are there to be accosted. And some level of control over that, because particularly with the free newspapers, it's not just the person standing with the newspapers, it's usually 3 or 4 carts carrying the newspapers as well nearby, could make life a great deal easier for commuters, and therefore for residents, 'cause commuters won't be inconveniencing residents as much.
Okay, I mean, thank you for your comment. Obviously, there's limitations over what we can do through planning policy, but your comment is
I appreciate that may be a bylaw or a legislation issue rather than a planning policy issue.
Thanks.
But planners in Westminster have spent quite a lot of the last 5 to 10 years trying to grab back tiny little bits of pavement to make things wider in order to reduce congestion, and they're in some measure defeated by not being able to grapple with that issue.
Okay. Is it? Yeah, gentleman in.
Yeah, Ben Davis, Heart of London Business Alliance. Just 2 points, really. Just picking up on the wayfinding issue again. For an area where we represent, such as Leicester Square and Piccadilly Circus, it's of vital importance because of the numbers of tourists that are visiting the area, so there's that aspect. And on the point on tables and chairs can actually make a more cultural and amenable area, such as Leicester Square, where we're actually extending the areas actually out to provide a better destination.
Can I just take one more question on this and then we'll move on?
Julian Robinson from the London School of Economics. Firstly, I would like to reiterate this. I think wayfinding is very important, particularly encouraging people to walk to destinations. Second point I'd like to make is I think you should be planning for the future in terms of recycling stations within the public realm and designing those in rather than just plonking them down. And you should have a policy that if you do actually put in an additional piece of sort of street furniture, such as recycling, you only do that if you can take something away. There's lots of redundant telephone boxes that still are in position, and people with mobile, I mean, they're very rarely used. So I think you can actually look at that.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, just one more gentleman in the green.
Robert O'Dell from the Soho Society. One more addition that I would suggest would be the rickshaws, which are certainly prevalent in our part of Westminster. Walking here tonight, there were two of them parked on what I thought was a pedestrian island in Piccadilly Circus, and they frequently block the curbside in front of theatres late in the evening. It's hard to cross the street.